one combination means you're ending the sentence and you're waiting for them to respond. But if you end your combinations with the jab, you can completely interrupt and go back into your job. Or even if you want to stop, they have to traverse the distance to get to you now. So these are little things that make it difficult for people to really get started with you. So when I say these little things, this is what I mean. Look how far you backed him up. He didn't even try to back up on an angle. Bop, bop. You didn't even hit him. But it completely made him back up.
Hi, everyone. This is Akeem, or full name, Almas Hakeem Sami. And I'm interviewing a good friend of mine, and I'm going to pronounce his name the best I can correctly so that the rest of the world can witness it. Patrick Wire Thrasybule. Did I pronounce your name
Exactly, my
correctly?
friend. Yes, you did. Yes, you
Oh, yeah. I
did.
love that. So for me, the value that I hold is every person's name is important. And the reason that our names are given to us by our parents, I believe it's through divinity to help inspire us to be who we actually are. To the full divinity, the fullness of who we are is reminded every time someone says our name. So that's what I like to
Yeah.
do. I like to make sure I pronounce everyone's name right. So I'm glad I got yours together. So,
Well, yeah, yeah. Like we were saying a little earlier, that really shows it shows a commitment when people take an opportunity to say your name. If they take the opportunity to try to say your name correctly, it shows a lot of respect for who you are to them. And if they don't, it shows a lot about how much respect they have for you.
hmm.
So I'm always impressed when someone tries. I understand it's a difficult name. There's a lot of syllables in
But
there.
also there's this feeling of whenever you say a person's name with the right frequency, it has a ring to it. And I guess I'm kind of an artist at heart, multiple types of artists. So when I say the name to its completeness, it has like this, it sounds like poetry. So it's like I said your
Yeah,
name and it sounded like poetry. So
there are times when I'm in the middle of a stressful situation, when I'm in the middle of whether it would be a fight or a bad time at work or anything that would make me want to quit, I'll say Thrive. If I'm in that situation, and Thrasybule, the word actually translates to brave-willed.
hmm.
So, you know, I often use it as a mantra, like be brave, Thraz, Thraz. you know,
Wow, it sounds almost like a battle cry or mantra of like calling you to greatness.
that's what I try to use it as.
Huh.
There are times when life gets tough. A lot of times it's very easy. It's very easy for us to lay down and say that this thing, this moment, uh, this time we're in, maybe it's not worth it. I can do anything else, something else, anything else. But if you got on the path, you got on the path for some reason, and if there was a reason, you should continue it through.
Hmm.
As much as you can. And when I was younger, I would do little things that would be less than ideal in those regards. And I had my family around me to guide me to show me that's not okay. That you give it the best you can. It's okay to fail, but give it the best you can. And that's what it means to me. So, okay, I might lose this, but I'm going to give it the best try I can. I'm going to go in here with, the courage and the innocence of the heart, the heart I have that I had when I was a baby.
Hmm.
And I'm going to go and say, okay, hey, I'm facing this with the bravery that I have. I think it was I think it was Maya Angelou. She said, the first virtue, because without it, no other virtues can be practiced.
Hmm.
And this is why I do a lot of martial arts. This is why I do a lot of things where I put myself in confrontational situations
Hmm.
to galvanize those pieces of myself where I can go ahead and get started. I can build the muscle of being the person I need to be. You know, and so a lot of times if you hear me walk around and go Thraz, that's why.
Well said.
There's need for courage at that time.
Yeah, well said. So I mean that also goes right perfectly into what I was going to announce that you do. You're a martial artist, you're a coach, and there's other offerings that you and I have noticed that we also do in the technical fields as well. But what specific work is your body? What are you embodying in your offerings to the world?
Well, that's exactly what I do. Like I have other talents and whatnot and other things I get into, but uh, what I try to do is to uh, guide guide people through difficult times, and a lot of what that means is helping people through their fears. And I use martial arts as a vehicle to do that. A lot of times people come to me because they want to learn how to fight. Well, as soon as you start peeling back that onion, the wanting to learn how to fight is because of some feeling of inadequacy, some fear, something is there, and they want to learn how to fight against it. And so, that to me is my calling because I've had to go through it. I've had to go through it so many times. And whether that's, in competitive sport, so like I do a lot of training for kids in boxing, even some adults in boxing, or whether that's just in self-defense. Uh, there's a part of people where they need to be able to know that they can, when when called on, they can count on themselves. And I guess I'm just a coach helping them through that.
Wow. So in some ways, this comes across as a martial arts teacher or coach, but also a life coach in some ways because they're facing it and you're helping them embody physically a way to help them move through their life's challenges. That sounds like
Yeah.
something that you may have had as your beginnings. Where were you born? Where'd you start off at?
I was born in Brooklyn, New York, and think very quickly my mother and father, my mother and stepfather, they moved to Savannah, Georgia, and they got to Savannah, Georgia, and had a pretty rough time of it, but they kind of built themselves a little life. So about 5 years old, I went from the Northeast to the South, and while I was there, culture shock,
Yeah,
you know.
that is a big difference.
And you're 5 years old, you're doing the best you can, trying to make your parents proud, trying to have fun, you're a child. And uh, I think that was a lot of what started it there because that was the time I was different. My mother, she's Haitian American. She came to the United States when she was 9. So she had a horrible experience with children in school. She couldn't speak the language the same way other kids could. And so she would get teased horribly. She didn't want that for her children. So she refused to let me or my sister use conjecture in the house. Our English had to be perfect. What she didn't realize was that, we're in the South, we're coming off sounding snooty. So,
Oh,
so the perfect little round fat child is now who sounds erudite is now about to get bullied to
uh,
death.
this is so familiar. And in my family of origin, a lot of ours is from Oklahoma, and we're
Mhm.
like Black Indians from Oklahoma, but migrated from Mississippi, Choctaw. Well, uh, in the southeast areas of Oklahoma is where a lot of the Black Indians reside, both my grandmother and my grandfather's side on my dad's bloodline. And with And they were known for their diction, speaking, proper English, so to speak. Not Queen's English, of course, but proper English, so to speak, in America, in the
Yeah.
South America for that. And the bullying that happened even back then, and even my dad, because he carried that on when they moved to West Oklahoma, small town, like Clinton, Oklahoma, small town of like 2,000 people back then. And the first thing they said is, "You sound white." We start getting typecasted and then shot down, and then he had to fight all the time, and same for his two brothers. And so
Mhm.
did you encountered lots of that kind of physical bullying as well?
Oh yeah, all the time, all the time. It just never went away. In fact, it still happens now, but I'm much more adept at diffusing those situations and kind of having people understand who I am from the door. But at the time, it was almost impossible, and I was small and
Mm.
young and chubby, so I would get followed home from school, beat on. I remember one particularly bad day, and this segues great into it. Um, I kept I forget what they call it, but at the time they called it mushing, where you take your whole open hand, stick it in someone's face, and push.
Oh,
And that happened to me the whole walk home from school until I got to the house. My father, he had this thing where he always liked to be able to look out of wherever he was. He didn't like his back to walls, and he was a very interesting guy. Like you'd love him if you met him, but he took some getting used to because he would do strange things like I'm about to tell you. He rearranged the bathroom so that the toilet bowl would be facing the back window of the bathroom.
so he wanted to make sure that they were secure. Is that what he was doing?
I think that was part of it. I think he wanted to be able to say that even in the bathroom he could look out the window and survey the house.
Well, that's an idea. Now I'm starting to get ideas here.
So he sat out there and he saw me getting beat up, and
Mm.
I think at one point I said, "No, I'm a follower of Dr. King. Leave me alone." They pummeled me until I decided to fight back, and then they pummeled me some more.
Mm.
And I saw that my father saw me, and I thought, "Oh, he's coming to my rescue," and he
Mm.
didn't.
Wow.
And then when I came in the house, he sat me down and he talked to me, and he said, "Look, Dr. King did not say that he was nonviolent because he was scared to fight. He knew that he could fight,
Mm.
but the fight wouldn't be worth it. Dr. King courageously did not fight. That courage is doing something even though you're afraid of it."
Mm.
You know, he'd often give me these type of lessons.
Mm.
And you can't respect Dr. King by doing his work out of fear. So I'm like, wait a minute, that's my big defense, Dad.
And your dad is
You
a
can't
martial
take that away
artist
from
too.
me.
Your dad's a
Oh
martial
yeah,
artist too, right?
yeah, yeah, yeah. He was actually he was a fighter. He was a contender, uh, and by the time I known him, he had been retired. But um, he was this was his opportunity to give me the pitch to say, yeah, I can teach you how to deal with this fear
Mm.
that you're having. And so he began training me, and one thing led to another. After a while, I became a fighter. He never wanted me to actually uh, compete the way he did, but
Interesting.
I wound up doing it anyway, and met met all the people that were in his circle and got all the stories about his life later on. But yeah, he began me on the road, teaching me how to deal with my fear.
Mm.
And so I began to be known as that little guy who you don't want to mess with. I really never understood that. I never really understood why people would say that about me because I was always so full of fear. but it was the facing it that's all that people saw.
Hmm.
People saw me facing uh, all types of conflict. And as time went on in life, I became, you know, I don't know, kind of like an ambassador for people in my neighborhood when it came to, you know, don't be the guy who's afraid. Look at that little guy. Look what he was able to accomplish. And because of that, I think that's why a lot of people often come to me looking for guidance when it comes to those little insecurities they have.
Hmm.
And first thing I have to tell them the whole time, everything you're feeling, I'm feeling. Every problem you have, I have. We just have to learn to navigate through it, and and I help them navigate. That's that's what I do.
That's powerful that you actually start with humbling yourself and not putting yourself on a perch above them to reach them side to side, heart to heart, and say, okay, I see what you're going through. First of all, I've been there, and here's my version of what it looked like, and there's a better way, and here you go. And then you start taking them through a training process, it feels like at that point.
Exactly, exactly.
Wow.
And that's the thing. A lot of times we will we will put ourselves in a situation where we think, oh, we're better. That we've done something, whether it's generational, when children think, ah, what they're doing is old, or where the old guys will say, ah, you kids don't know nothing.
Yeah.
But the human experience is the human experience. Someone said, there's nothing new under the sun.
Mm.
It's never what you do, but how it's done.
Hmm.
And and these are truths. They're everywhere. And when something is true, you feel it in your spirit. You need to stop and pause and take that and examine it and use it in your life. You know. And so, like, a lot of people, like, a lot of my students will introduce me as a master. I'm like, please don't do that.
It's a risky thing. The moment you do that, then there's the challenges.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be a master today,
And and not only is it not true, because I'm not a master, I think I'll be trying to master myself the
Hmm.
rest of my life.
Hmm.
But it puts a barrier between me and you. It means you can't approach.
Hmm.
It means you have to ask all these permissions. And no, we're friends. I'm a friend lending you assistance. I'm being a guide. I'm someone you can come to. I'm someone who's in your corner all the time. Whether that's telling you what you want to hear or whether that's telling you what you need to hear.
Hmm. Yeah, that's two
Whether
different
that's me
things.
being the boss or stepping back and letting you do your thing. That's got to come from a position of trust, and that we can't have that trust be me being the guy behind the wall of mastery that you need to get to. That's not going to work. You need to be able to approach me when you need me. I need to be able to get through to you when you need it.
Hmm.
You know.
Wisely said. And that opens the door to so many more opportunities for like transparency and vulnerability. And there's so much that like even you faced the fear that you did, and you kind of hid it back in those days when you said that you were so afraid in your
Mhm.
competitions and everything. You were so afraid, and you hid it in a certain way to where hopefully no one could notice. But couldn't people notice anyway in the moment? Right? I mean, so we're not exactly
Yeah.
hiding it, but we feel like I when I faced it myself, when I've tried to play off like, I'm tough and I can handle this, and then they see my insecurity and it's like, wow, I feel naked.
Yeah.
And then it's almost like
Yeah.
I'm being brought to this deeper place spiritually now where I've got to exalt. So it seems like you like getting people to the place where they can be completely naked so they can remove all these layers of all this projection and exalt.
Yeah. Be authentically yourself in the moment. And we've created this world where we hide ourselves in all types of things, especially in moments of stress.
Mm.
Especially in moments of stress, you'll see a person walk around and act as if they're an animal. And you look at them and they're like, come on, you've got a mother, you've got a father, you've got a wife, you've got children. You're not an animal. There are no monsters in this world. They're just people doing what they think they need to do to make it through the day. And at that moment, you think only a monster can make it through this situation. So that's the image you're projecting.
Mm,
But I guarantee you that a human just being themselves has found a way through this situation, and you can too.
wow.
So,
Yeah.
you
And you're looking at like the animal kingdom, and even from like my study of martial arts, particularly in type of kung fu that's more animal based, like the 12 animals, you're embodying this different spirit of these different animals. Like this is the spirit of monkey, this is the spirit of horse, this is dragon, this is, and there's this energy of your projection of what they would be and
Mhm,
wanting to portray that image, including training it so often that you end up making it yours per se. Uh, If
mhm,
there's such a thing, still a projection of making that yours. But then there's those people that naturally, like for instance, when you and I have sparred, and I'm going to put some snippets on our video today, uh, for everyone who's watching this. Uh, you actually bring an energy of like a bear, this energy of this bear. And it's like, and where I say that, there's a sacredness to the bear, especially in North American, Native American mysticism. Uh, the bear represents a sort of love, and it's like this over encompassing, like don't mess with the mother cubs. Mom's
mhm,
got this love, and even from a masculine perspective, there's this protection element, and there's also
yeah,
this stateliness that almost kind of reminds me of the lion, but it's bigger, and even Vikings have had talks about it sounds like thunder when you hear it walk, and it's not trying to do these things, it's just being.
mhm,
And so this is, people can't help but be this embodiment. So my observation of you is that you bring this natural exuding of a bear like energy, and it shows up when you fight, it shows up when you walk, and you can't help it because it's who you are,
yeah. Yeah, I have no. My wife is the same thing. She's called me Bear the entire time we've been together. So, so you and her agree on that. But yeah, I've gotten heavier as I've gotten older,
Mm,
and I think that was one of the things I wanted to do when I competed was I wanted to fight larger and larger and larger people.
mm,
So I would gain more and more and more weight. And in the beginning, it was very useful weight. But as I got older, that useful weight became less useful. But
that's familiar.
I learned, but no matter what, I kept fighting. And so I started learning to use the weight in ways that help me.
Mm,
Like it's here, it might as well be doing something.
hmm.
So I think that's where a lot of that comes from. Like
Is that
there's
connecting to
certain
how you
ways.
health, you mean?
Well,
Is
in
that what
some
you
ways,
mean? Yeah.
and even in just the way I move, the way I fight, there are times when, uh, uh, you know, I was an amateur. You got to do 4 rounds. Got to make it through 4 rounds.
Mhm.
You're 178 pounds, you're 5'8",
Mm.
fighting someone else who's 178 pounds, but he's rehydrated and now he's about 190 pounds. He's 6 foot. You have to be aggressive to get to him. You
Mm,
got to fight hard, and you've got this extra weight on you. So the movements have to be purposeful.
mm,
You
mm,
have to drag the weight and use it in a purposeful way.
mm.
So I think that's where a lot of it comes from. If I do move like a bear, that might be why, because a bear has a lot of weight, and when it's using it, it has to use it purposefully. And when it's not using it, it's letting it go. So that might be where that's coming from.
That totally makes sense. It connects. Well, we've got about another minute and a half left together. So I
Mhm,
did want to get your take of other ways that people can interact with you. You teach here in the Austin area, Austin, Texas area, right?
mhm. Yeah, so I teach boxing and what I call what is called Brick City Rock, and teaching here out of my home in Austin, Texas, Pflugerville, and we do a lot of good with it here. So yeah, you can find me. I'll probably send a link for you to put up if you like. But yeah, we go to the park and we work out here. I take my students to boxing gyms when they're ready, and we work. That's
Mhm,
what we do. We do what we can to make the mission go through.
mhm,
Uh, Building fighters, people who are able to make it through life the way they'd like to. You know.
mhm, mhm. Okay, and so we'll make sure we include a snippet of your information, how people can reach you, and
Mm.
be able to connect with you a bit more. I would love to have you back on this show again and be able to talk through some of all of these wonderful incarnations of your wisdom. Thank you again for your help.
All right.
Thanks for showing up, man. Appreciate you.
Thank you. I'd love seeing you again, brother. Let's have a great let's talk again soon. Have a good one.
Yes, sir. You too. Thank